Welcome to Peter of Football Chat, and the main talking points tonight. In Johnston, but will Gordon Strachan do this? Semi-final draw. Just a few of the topics we'll be discussing. Alan Ruff is alongside me, Peter Martin, and in the boot room we have a former Rangers and Brighton midfielder and striker, really.
The boot room, sponsored by Third Dimension Framing.
Gordon Smith is our boot room guest. I like to just make the point that you can play in two positions, Gordon. You can probably play in 3 or 4 other positions as well, but midfield and striker, delighted to have you on the programme. And of course we're going to talk first and foremost about Scotland. It was a 6-0 win, Ruffy. It was a convincing one against a team that we expected to win against. Gibraltar, not that great.
No, it wasn't, but we know the quality of Gibraltar. It was there for everybody to see. They were pretty average. I thought he might have played a couple of players, you know, just to get him a wee run out. You know, the boy Russell, I'd have liked to have seen him getting a wee run out. I was surprised, really, Craig Gordon never played. I'd love to know the answer to that one. I thought he would have been automatic to go in there. But no, I don't think Gordon can take anything out of the game at all. But he can take out the reaction from the Scottish supporters, which was very important.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing.
They didn't know it was meaningless when they actually booked it. And it was in Portugal as opposed to being in Gibraltar, which is a nice holiday resort, so that's a factor too. But it was a great response he got, considering what happened on the Thursday night. You know, that was amazing. I mean, but as Ruffy says, Ruffy says that Gibraltar are average. I think they need to improve to be average, to be honest with you. I think they're well below average, Gibraltar. I mean, they don't cause any teams a problem whatsoever. I mean, I don't know when they're ever going to win a game at that level. FIFA don't allow them in. They're not a FIFA regulated team yet. They're only in UEFA. But really, you wonder whether teams like that should really be in the championships. What's the point of them being there? You know, they're just getting hammered every game. Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure some people might have a differing view on that. We're all for meritocracy. We're all for people aspiring and teams aspiring to greater heights. Who would have thought the Faroe Islands would ever win a game? But stranger things have happened. San Marino as well. Maybe Gibraltar in the future will be celebrating a win, but we did get 6. Stephen Fletcher did get another hat-trick, Ruffy.
Yeah, and again, it's all about stats. You know, that's him racked up another 3 goals, you know, and it's good to see it on paper that you have a striker who is not. In the next campaign, he'll be getting into games now with goals behind him rather than trying to get goals, so that might make him a better player.
Yeah, of course, Gordon Strachan will time. Craig Brown has already suggested that Gordon, it might be all about Leslie, Gordon Strachan's wife, and how crucial her advice is on this.
It could be, but from that point of view, I don't think there's a lot of time restriction. Maybe a little bit more than people imagine, but they've not got a lot of games, and I think that he can spend a lot of time with the family and his wife, because to be honest with you, he goes to quite a lot of games and he takes her with him. So he's going to watch matches. He's doing a bit of that. When the actual get-togethers with the Scotland team are limited, and I know for a fact that that some of the people prefer to be in a club situation where they're busy all the time. Others are quite comfortable with international, and I think Gordon has now become comfortable with that. And I think if he was going to stay in football at management level, I think that being an international manager might be one of the aspects that makes it comfortable for him to stay, remain, and I don't think his wife would have a problem with that either for all the time he's going to be away.
Yeah. It was interesting, the selfies after the game. I remember when we came back from Argentina, when we landed on the tar park, Ali was wanting to get photographs with the supporters, but the police were advised not to do it.
Yeah, and of course, when you landed on the tarmac, nobody knew where a mobile phone was, Ruffy, because it was 1978. But nevertheless, I take your point. I think I'd like him to stay. I'm almost certain on that one. What about you, Ruffy?
Yeah, I'm all for it. I think it's we're playing a better style of football. The fans are right behind them. the results weren't there. That's the main thing they've got to improve. There's no doubt about that. But performance level, I think if you look at the Georgia game and the last goal against Poland there, I think that was our only failing in the whole campaign. Big failing, right enough. I mean, it was 5 points that we threw away that we would have qualified. So if we can build on that and keep everybody on board with a wee introduction, I'd like the defence to be tightened up a wee bit. I thought we lost a lot of silly goals, so it's come back in bits. But no, I think we're on the right road. We're on the right road.
Gordon Smith, would you like him to stay?
I wouldn't mind if he does stay, but I think that he should be in a position where he's looking at it. I think there's been an awful lot of positivity towards it. Ruffy's just given a lot of it, and the bottom line is his remit is to get Scotland qualify for a European trophy. Now, a lot of people are right behind Gordon Strachan. I can see he's had a lot of positivity with the supporters, the media right behind him and everything like that. But when you put it into context, in perspective, he's actually had a bad campaign, because I don't care what anybody says. If your job is to get your team qualified, this is the easiest chance any Scotland manager's ever had to qualify for a tournament, because you've got 2 automatic places put you through, and a 3rd place puts you into a playoff.
Was it the easiest group?
It wasn't an easy group, but to be honest with you, we've been higher up. Alec McLeish, for example, got Scotland 3rd place in a group that contained the 2 World Cup finalists, Italy, France, Ukraine were in that group, who were actually really high up in the FIFA rankings at the time. Lithuania and Georgia were also in that group. It was a 7-team group, and Alec McLeish got Scotland 3rd place. And were unlucky, they just lost in the last game. It went to the last game after losing in Georgia. So things like that, you put in perspective and you say, you know, has he done a good job? If he was walking away now, I would say to him, you know, he's done his job. He was unlucky. He might think that he's got an opportunity with this group. We already know what the group is. A lot of the times when one tournament's finished, I've never known it before, when you're playing in the Championship, you know, the European Championships are on and the World Cup draw's already been made. This is the first time it's ever happened. So we know who Scotland are going to be playing in the World Cup.
Well, let me tell you this. Let me flip that before we get to the break. Do we go for 2-year contracts for every manager that comes in? Jock Stein didn't get us to the 1980 European Championships, but he got us to the World Cup in 1982. So should we take a more long-term approach? And if he does walk away, I don't see many candidates that I could think of that could come in and do a job right now.
I think there will be other candidates. I think that one I've just mentioned, Alec McLeish, is out of job at the moment and he's available. So he's the kind of guy. There might be other people who all of a sudden come home. I think Gordon Strachan is. I was pleased in terms of when he got the job. I think he was the right man. But he has to consider this a failure. And if he continues now in the job, I will support him. And hopefully he gets there and does it. You know, if he walks away on his own, I would hold my hands up also and say, well, he's made a decision based on the fact that he has failed so far. But you're right. But some people only got one campaign. I mean, George Burley was an example of that. George Burley was not popular. He didn't have a great campaign. But when you look back, George Burley had Scotland 2nd equal on points. They lost in goal difference. So it wasn't that wasn't as bad a campaign, and yet nobody speaks positively whatsoever about George Burley, do they?
Well, absolutely, but with all due respect, you know, these days in the 21st century, it's not just, I mean, everything is about results. I accept that. But I think some managers, you look at the bigger picture of what's going on behind the scenes, what's happening. You know, George Burley in the background, I think, you know, we only have to look at the disciplinary situations that emerged, Ruffy. You know, there was a campaign of unrest in the background that I think derailed him as well. And a number of decisions that I think even on the field people were looking at and wondering what was happening. Yeah,
it just shows you how important it is to have the media on your side. It is important to have the players on your side. And you have to get results. You know, if you look at Walter Smith, Alec McLeish and Gordon Strachan, I don't remember any bad publicity there. I remember everybody really appreciating what they'd done, and that made it easier for them. You know, because they didn't qualify, but the fans could see what they were trying to do. and that'll give them buying time.
Yep, absolutely. After the break, I think we're going to talk about what the new Scotland manager or the present Scotland manager will have at his disposal with regards to emerging talent, if he is going to indeed tweak it. That's something we will discuss, and we'll also get the thoughts of Ruffy and Gordon Smith on domestic issues, as well as looking at some of the other countries that succeeded in getting to France in Euro 2016. Of course, England are there, Wales are there even after a defeat, and of course what a fantastic night for Northern Ireland as well. Michael O'Neill's boys coming up with a 1-1 draw. They'll be looking forward to it. We will just be sitting there wishing we were at France 2016. But there's more to come and more interaction from you after the break. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show. Delighted for your support watching the programme weekdays. We like to bring you the daily fix of the football chat. Of course, we've been talking about the Scotland situation, and we wonder about the quality of the players coming through. The Scotland under-21s, Ruffy, didn't do too well against France, and there are major concerns over whether we have enough talent coming through. And I'm looking at some of the players that we might have to call on as well, I think it'd be interesting to get your thoughts on that, and of course our boot room guest Gordon Smith.
The Boot Room, sponsored by Third Dimension Framing.
So let's assess it. Gordon, I'm looking at the under-21 team: Hamilton, Patterson, Finlay, Kingsley, McGee, McGinn, Christie, Nicholson, Slater, Gould, Cummings, the likes of Jay Fulton, Lawrence Shanklin, Billy King as well in there. And let's not forget you've got other players like Gary Mackay-Stevens, Stuart Armstrong, maybe even Scott Allen in that mix as well. Jamie Walker, Graham Shinney, and maybe even Islam Farouz.
Yeah, I think there is talent coming through.
Yeah,
I must be honest with you. I think that we are developing players. There's more and more teams now are going down the Scottish route. They're getting players in. There'll be quite a few other ones if we sat and probably considered it, who are now down in England as well, who've been moved down there, been bought by English clubs, who are maybe not playing at first team level, but they're in development teams. So I think there is a lot of talent there. I mean, it was a poor performance maybe in terms of the game against France, but who knows how France are coming on. They might be developing pretty well at the moment and coming through, so it's hard to tell. Not having seen the game, I can't really make a judgment on it, but I can make a judgment on the fact that I think there are a lot of good young players coming through in Scotland just now.
I think they're coming through, but I think they're 2 or 3 years away from us getting any benefit from them.
What, all of them?
World Cup, yeah. I think some of the ones you've mentioned there would struggle to hold down a first team place in some of their teams. Ryan Christie, who's a big prospect, there's no doubt about that. We don't know if he's going to be a permanent in the Celtic team. So I think they're there's a gap of 2 or 3 years before we see the best of the group that you've just read out there.
Anyone at all that you might think might be able to force the issue?
No.
No?
Not at all. No, none of them at this precise moment in time would get anywhere near the bench.
OK, picking up on that, you don't think there's enough talent coming through. You've also expressed your worry over the back line. Where are we going to get defenders for the next campaign?
That's a big problem. Well, there's nobody. There's nobody at all playing football at any high level that is near enough to get into that team. That's why we've got the defenders that we've got. Gordon has searched everywhere, you know, to get centre-halves, and it is a problem. The biggest problem is most of the players can't hold down a first team place.
OK, let's have a look at the group that Scotland have just failed to get to. France 2016, Germany out there in front. They obviously squeezed a win last night. Poland, of course, against the Republic of Ireland. The Republic of Ireland clearly on a high from the weekend's exploits, but that quickly disappeared with that man again, Gordon Smith, Lewandowski, with the winner in a 2-1 win over the Republic, who will now go into a playoff.
It's not like him. I mean, if we had a Lewandowski, we might be going to France
might not
next
need
year.
to worry about the defenders.
No, No, you don't worry about defenders. You get something like that. But the thing about it is, I mean, there's two results that there really, two score lines had the big effect. One was our defeat in Georgia, and the second one was Ireland beating Germany. I mean, there were two surprise results, and there's nothing we can do about the second one. I'm shocked at Germany losing that game, because I actually even would say, looking at the games between us and the Republic of Ireland, we were the better team, I felt, in both games, and we are, you know, so we should be above them, and yet they get a win against Germany when we get two defeats, you know. So maybe Germany just went up for it, I don't know, but that cost us certainly, because even the point, even with if the result had gone as we expected to do, with Germany getting a win in Ireland, even that point against Poland would have been enough for us then getting the win in Gibraltar. That would have been the level points with Ireland, and we would have been on the head-to-head. We're through to the playoff, right? Yeah. So that killed us. But the Georgia game was one that we could do something about, and we didn't. We had a bad performance.
Is it fair to include all the home countries and, of course, the Republic of Ireland, and suggest, Ruffy, that it's England and then Wales, then Scotland, then maybe, you know, Republic of Ireland, Northern Ireland? Or do you think Northern Ireland are above Republic of Ireland?
No, I think Republic of Ireland are a very, very difficult team to beat. I think they've got a way to play, and it was proved the other night there against Germany. Yeah, they rode their luck a wee bit, but they look harder to score against. And that proved in the group that they're in. They didn't lose as many goals. I don't think Northern Ireland were in a particularly hard group, but don't take anything away from them. You've still got to go and win games. I would think that we're behind England and par with Republic. I would like to think we'd beat Northern Ireland, and Wales are on a wee run just now. So I think we're probably level with Wales. Yeah,
Wales would probably be, other than England, Wales would probably be, I think, the second best at the moment, just because they've also got talent, match-winning talent. You know, they've got Gareth Bale, who is hard to stop. So you'd look at England first, then maybe Wales. I think we then come into third place, and that's why it's very disappointing. If the Republic of Ireland get through, and all four of those nations are in the finals, we have failed to achieve something. We should be there.
It was interesting you said, what players have we gotten coming through? I think a worrying thing for us that England have players coming through. They've got young players in the next 2 years that will be in that team and at the crest of the big teams like Arsenal, Man City.
We don't have any players in the top. I looked at last season's league, English Premiership, and I think the top 7 clubs, we didn't have one single player in any of the top 7, right? But we have more Premiership players playing just now in England than we've had for quite some time. That's why, if you look at, I remember for quite some time, Peter, if you look back, the only player was Dan Fletcher, was about the only Premiership player that was in our squad. Everyone else wasn't, and that's why we should have done better with the number of Premiership players we do have in our current squad. Yeah,
let's have a look at that Group F, Northern Ireland, and I think Michael O'Neill deserves tremendous credit. I mean, Northern Ireland won the group. Romania, Hungary, Finland, Faroe Islands and Greece at the bottom end. You know, we think we've got problems. And of course, let's not forget the Dutch as well, Ruffy. Northern Ireland's achievement, I still think, is up there. I mean, a great team spirit. Yeah. And as Michael O'Neill mentioned, no egos.
No, and they've all worked for each other, there's no doubt about that. Sometimes you get that with teams like that who don't have big stars. They knuckle down, you know, and they fight for each other. And they get wee results here and there. But again, if you look at that section, I mean, I couldn't even tell you what team was in pot 1 in that group, you know, and it just shows you there weren't any.
I think Greece were one of the favourites.
Turned it round about. So I would like to think if we were in that group, we'd be first or second.
Yeah, well, again, I mean, statistics can kill you at the best of times. Let's look at another one, because Bosnia-Herzegovina defeated Wales, and talk about the change in emotions, Ruffy, over a 10-second period. Once they had found out that Israel had been defeated by Cyprus, suddenly the Welsh misery of having to go right to the last game changed into, you know, just absolute delight and celebration. And, you know, who would begrudge them at you know, they've got a wonderful player in Gareth Bale, but they've also qualified with a number of other players as well at their disposal that are quality.
Wales are one of the teams I do feel happy for, because unfortunately for them, they were in the end of us qualifying. You know, they get 2 bad decisions, you know, one at Anfield and one at Cardiff with us with the penalty kicks, and it stopped them qualifying. So good for them, you know, they're getting a wee rub in the green now.
Yeah, absolutely. There's Ruffy, just a slight apology for what we managed to do on 2 occasions. I don't think you're welcome in Wales after your save against Toshak, are you, Ruffy?
No, there was their own fault for taking it to Anfield. I still can't get my head around that one at all. You know, when we walked out that night, it was a home game for us, and that was one of the main reasons that we won that game.
Yeah, absolutely.
And my save, obviously.
Yeah, and that's I knew you were going to say that. 2 perfect guests for blowing their own trumpet on the programme today. I can't let you go without seeing the England group because there they are, sitting pretty at the top. And tonight, if they can dispatch a few goals past Lithuania, they will have 10, the perfect 10 consecutive wins in that group. They're on their way to France, and as Ruffy mentioned there, they've got a good few players, Ruffy, that they can call on. Yeah,
I think they have. They've got a lot of them coming back into the team. You know, they've been out. A lot of them have been out with injury, and we've forgot about them. But we got an evidence the England game at Parkhead. I thought they were impressive. I thought they were a level above us. The pace they played at, the players they had pace as well, and that's what troubled us. So no, but I think again, obviously we're going into a new campaign, and we're looking at the playoff position already.
Yeah,
before we start.
That's the great thing about Ruffy tonight. He's got us all doom and gloom really on this World Cup qualifying group as well. And of course, England have qualified without a world-class player. According to Sir Alex Ferguson, there are no world-class players in that side unless you know different. At Peter and Ruffy, if you want to give us your thoughts on it, and facebook.com/Peter and Ruffy. After the break, we will talk about the Petrofac Training Cup semi-final draw, among other things. Managers still looking for jobs. Welcome back to our extended Peter and Ruffy football show tonight. Alan Rough and Gordon Smith are with me talking football. We've been talking, of course, European Championship qualifiers in the first 2 parts of the programme. Let's get into some of the stories on the domestic front. Tommy Wright extends his stay at St Johnstone. It's always good when somebody's interested in you for a job, Ruffy. you either go or you get a lucrative new deal.
Yeah, and it's worked well for him. But you have to say as well, the success that he's had, you know, would want you to give him an extra contract. You know, what he's done for St Johnstone has been absolutely superb. Yeah, it's manoeuvred his way, and good luck to him.
Helped a lot.
He's a really nice guy.
Correct. The chairman actually said, "Oh, he can go higher than Dundee United."
Yeah.
So right away, he's putting him on a pedestal, isn't he? So therefore, the bigger deal was what was required at that stage then.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like a chairman who can pay a compliment to the manager and still have a dig at the club that are trying to get his services, because that's exactly what that line was, Ruffy. You can do better than Dundee United.
Yeah, it certainly was. But, you know, I think the success that St Johnstone have had over the last couple of years has been very, very good. And it'd be a silly owner to let the manager walk with the success that he's had.
He's in a win-win situation, Gordon, because he's got the contract now to 2019. You know, regardless of the way the squad, whether it goes back the way, whether he loses key players or not, he has written himself into the history. St Johnstone might never, you know, in the next, 30, 40, 50 years, get another shout at the Scottish Cup.
Exactly. I mean, to win it the first time in their history is good enough, as I say, and you're right. I mean, he might be in a position where he can win it again, so that's why they give him a full year. They probably think he's got the capability of doing that. He got them into Europe as well. He got them into a high position in the league. Last weekend was an amazing result to beat Aberdeen 5-1. It's all come at a good time from that interest from Dundee United on the basis of just beating the league leaders 5-1 at their own patch. So he's in a strong position. The big problem he has is, and I think this is why they do like him, he's got limited resources there. He cannot spend the money. If they get offers, as we saw with Stevie May, a good offer in for a player's going to go. I mean, you can't hold on to players when their contracts are up and things like that. So he really is, it's hard to find somebody. You're never sure. It's always like, you know, a toss of a coin when you bring a manager in, is it whether he's going to work or not. So therefore, if you've got somebody you know is working, you want to keep him.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, Ruffy, and I'm not in any way trying to take any of the shine away from his achievements or John Hughes' achievement, but they managed to create a little bit of history at a time when the odds were in their favour, with Rangers being a far weaker team than we've witnessed over the last 2-3 decades, when Celtic and Rangers have dominated in the domestic scene.
Yeah, again, they've just got to beat what's in front of them. It's nothing to do with them that Rangers were down the divisions are weakened. They've got to go out, and we keep talking about budgets. Budget seems to be the thing that gets thrown out there, you know, that success and failure is what you're working under. And there's no doubt about it that some managers have got very, very good budgets, but I wouldn't like to think St Johnstone and Inverness would have any budget that would match any top team. So you have to give credit to the two managers where they wheel and deal, and that they can identify players to come in, and the success they've had and the way that they play football as well is good to watch.
Yeah, as far as the other club looking for a manager, Dundee United, we reckon, will go back in, and this time do you think they'll get John Hughes? They won't give up at the moment.
I think it looks that way. I think there is a set fee, I've been told, for John Hughes that they would have to pay. So if they're willing to pay that, and the second part of it is John Hughes willing to go? If he is, then I think that will be the move that will happen. I mean, you suggested it a little time back when we were talking about potential managers, Peter, and you thought it would be John Hughes. I thought maybe Mixu Paatelainen, because I thought maybe John Hughes would stay, and the fact that the fee to buy him in might be too much for Dundee United, but obviously not. And they're looking at him and thinking this is the time for him to move on. And I think, you know, the way it's looking now is that John Hughes is the strongest candidate, and certainly with Tommy Wright staying at St Johnstone now, I believe that deal could go through. Yeah,
and answering those questions, Ruffy, yes and yes. Compensation, yes. Does John Hughes want to leave? Yes.
Yes, I think so. He's had a taste at Hibs. He knows what it's like to be at a reasonably big club. He'll want to have a chance again. He's probably think he's got a few things to prove at a bigger club. And certainly Dundee United are a big club. You know, if you get the right players there with the right budget, who knows where they could go.
And he's also, Ruffy, in a similar situation to Tommy Wright. You know, this is the point where you look and you see the Inverness side and you see some quality players. Ryan Christie will leave. You're still trying to, you know, look for some half-decent players down the lower leagues in England. You're not really going to get any big transfer budget. You're isolated up in the north. No. I could rhyme off a good few win another trophy for a good few decades, because, you know, Rangers will be up next season. Now, there's all sorts of hypotheticals, ifs, buts, and maybe how strong Rangers will be, but you would imagine that we could be heading back to, you know, Celtic and Rangers being the strong dominant forces in the foreseeable future.
Yeah, but I think as far as John Hughes is concerned, you know, you're right, he's so far away, you know, you're not part of the big world. They don't seem to think they get the same credit that everybody else gets, and that's because he's only getting like crowds of 3,000 and 4,000 with the success they've had. He'd probably take a step back and say, look, I've just won a cup, look where we are in the league, look at the style of football, and I'm still only getting 3,000 crowds. So, and Butcher, when he left Inverness and went to Hibs, and somebody said to him, what was one of the biggest things that made you move here? And he said, well, I didn't have a window in my office at Inverness and I've got a window at Hibs. So I think he was trying to say it's a small place,
yes,
you know, and the people appreciate what you do up there, but going to a bigger club, there's bigger things for you to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always treat with a certain amount of disdain, Gordon, any manager who is at a provincial club saying we don't get enough credit, whether it be from the written media, the broadcast media, whatever. I mean, how many, you know, 4-page pullouts do you want? You've won the cup, great, everybody's singing and dancing about it.
They do. I mean, that's it. I mean, I think they get a lot of praise because they're with one of the smaller clubs. I mean, that's the thing is that, you know, John Hughes certainly got that because it was almost that poison chalice when he took over from Terry Butcher. It was going to be a tough shift because Terry Butcher had them up their highest ever position, had them second top of the league when he took over, and we're all saying, oh, it's going to be tough on John Hughes, but give him a lot of credit. and he got a lot of credit for taking them back to where they were with under Terry Butcher, and also winning their first ever Scottish Cup. I think it was marvellous. But and you know the other thing they say in football, Peter, you should be ready to move on when your stock's high, because in football, how quickly do things go down? Results, and everybody's saying, oh, you know, you're not the manager you were, you're not good enough. It's very quickly happens. So see, when you're in a high and somebody else wants you, it's probably the right time to move on. Yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't narrow it just down to the game of football. I mean, we're hanging on here wondering when Ruffy's going to bolt. You never know. You never know. Once he gets that attitude in his head, he could be gone. Let's look at the Petrofac Training Cup draw for the semi-finals. Gus McPherson was in here, Ruffy, saying, please, please, anybody but Rangers or Livingston, and he's got his wish. Yeah, I'm pleased for Queen's Park and Peterhead. It's always good to see a small club getting to a final, and just for the supporters and for all the hard work that these teams put in, you know, they'll get a day out and they'll enjoy every minute of it. I know everybody knocks it because it's just it's a smaller of the two other cups, but it's a cup final, and it doesn't matter which team of the four wins it, it'll be celebrated the way it should be, because winning a cup doesn't come along that often at some clubs. Yeah, and I think the desire from Mark Warburton will almost certainly be there, because it's a tournament the Rangers couldn't win in the lower leagues. Exactly. I mean, that's been one of the disappointing aspects for them, certainly with the fans. I mean, they got to a final and got beaten by Raith Rovers. They've been poor. I think the last year it was Alloa that knocked them out, wasn't it, when they were winning 2-0? 2-1 was it, with minutes to go. Yeah. So you're looking at a scenario that it was very, very embarrassing results. So I mean, there's still 3 games obviously left to win the cup, because they've got to obviously beat Livingston first, then, you know, taking on St Mirren, who bounced back to form a little bit during the week there at the weekend, because they beat Dunfermline surprisingly 4-0, so they bounced back. So it's not going to be easy yet for Rangers, but you're absolutely right. I think the onus will be on Matt Warburton to get this trophy. Yeah. Person and Queen's Park end up getting to the final and winning the Petrofac Training Cup, I would demand a 4-page pull-out, Ruffy, and all the credit possible. I think if Queen's Park and Rangers were to win the semi-finals, I think Queen's Park would gladly offer Hampden as the venue. Rangers would probably accept that. Yeah, cup final at Hampden, why not? And so would the sponsors as well, due to the distribution of the cash afterwards as well. Just a thought. Listen, it's been good chatting about it. You can interact with us at Peter and Ruffy and facebook.com/Peter and Ruffy. Everybody's talking about Gordon Strachan staying. We certainly on this programme would like him to stay. You might think differently and offer us a different opinion. We will read them out on the programme. Thanks to Ruffy, thanks to Gordon Smith for joining us. Do join us again tomorrow. More football chat on Peter and Ruffy's Football Show. Good night. Thanks for watching Peter and Ruffy's Football Show. If you enjoyed the programme and you'd like to see much more, click on plzsoccer.com. We've got archive programmes from Peter and Ruffy. We've got the Boot Room, Dream Team, all the latest up-to-date news in Scottish football and beyond. And you can win yourself a few prizes for the competitions. Lots more content. All you have to do is click on plzsoccer.com.